domestic violence that's happening, sexual abuse, irikuitika. And then I think I sort of suggested it last week. I sort of alluded to it, but we have situations where vanasisi, you know, my house help, and they are sexually mistreating vana vakomana vadiki. There's actually a case that I know, you know, obviously I can't mention names, but because it's also a minor and it's also a private thing. But kakomana kakane 6 years, kakanzi na sisi, iwewe ka uri boyfriend yangu, washinzo, and we've got a friendship tiri too.
That is diabolical.
That is terrible. I don't know how old the sisi was, but obviously she was over 25, right? And you know, she was doing whatever she was doing with the kid. The kid didn't understand. This child is 6 years old. Hands we say, kwa arika, remember my emotions and my feelings, and katotanga, even kamanakane 6 years. So pajaka sobato, I think he was saying something kuchkoro or something weird, and then nova vazofondera vabereki vakabereki vakanototi saka ari kutaura sisi saka pavakati I think vakabva vaita hasha mbatomufonera kuti tikutoya ikoko iye akasara akapfeka hembe dzake mbaenda. So now there was the inquiry yokuti mwana akunzi chitiudza kuti chii chakaitika, because tiri kuda kumutsvaga agosungiswa, because that's child molestation. Then this girl disappeared, and then they were trying to talk to the little boy because they needed evidence. The little boy, being clever, akabvaona kuti zvandiri kubvunzwa izvi zvinenge zvinoda kupinza girlfriend yangu in trouble. And so he just went mute, like he wouldn't say anything, like hapana zvavakawana kwari. This is a 6-year-old ari kutoti ndikataura girlfriend yangu anosungwa kana girlfriend yako anosita zvakati anosita zvakati. Do you see just the psychological impact?
And I'm about to talk about, surely constitutionally there should be some reprimandation for this kind of psychological
injury
to this child, because what kind of man is that child going to grow up to be?
Exactly.
When does he get to grow up again? I know that's diabolical.
I'm telling you. And you see, what people don't understand is whenever you are injuring vana in a sexual way, like your sexuality is you, it's your most private existence, you know. And so kana mwana akaitirwa zvaitirwa izvozvo, they will always grow up to be a terrible human being.
Of course, they didn't get to grow up.
Yeah, vanhu vakutambudzana ne-sexual orientation, ukanatokuzvitsvaga ukazvitreka back properly, you will see that something happened ari mwana mudiki. I know kuti there's an artist, you know, who a Brazilian artist, I think. That guy, I thought vanhu vacheni kuimba kwaita chimukomana icho chakatanga kuimba chiri kuma 3 years and stuff, kachitoita mapublic, you know, performances, and he was amazing, you know. And then he turned 22, I think, and 23 ikokoko, you know, and he was still carrying on with his music. He was just an amazing person. Then suddenly takuona uyo ato like transgender, ato like a woman, you know what I mean? And now he's a woman. He's a woman.
Yeah.
I don't know, but so ndakati chimwana ichika, something happened. Achiri mwana mudiki, you know, we don't know eno, but because angari a public figure and angari in the charge and care of so many people, atiziye kuti ndiano akamita zvaakamita, and now this is where he is, and that is so sad.
It is something that, okay, you know what, for the sake of pointers and the conversation, we must move on. But I personally, says someone here, I personally think that there should be a law that protects young boys from being exploited by mates. Now over to you, is there such a law? Yeah,
the law is there. That's why we're talking of the Domestic Violence Act. So it's actually also speaking to, you know, it's speaking to you know, to these offenses. But we also have our Criminal Law Procedure and Evidence Act, and or Codification Act, which actually criminalizes it. Sexual offenses, they are criminal. You know, you can't even start to say twice up. Okay, I don't want to compare, because violence is violence, but it's actually criminal. So the law is there. Unfortunately, the law applies sort of after the fact.
Yeah.
You see kuti pane chaitika choreportwa, then the law steps in, because the law can't live in your house to not to prevent what is happening under it. But when people know, when we speak about it like on air now, to say kuti ukangoita anything kumwana mudiki or even kumunhu mukuru uchimufosekedza, then that is actually a criminal offense.
So
right?
in any case, say we are to proffer a solution in this particular case, is to say then be vigilant so as to be able to report and let the law do something for you thereon after.
Yes.
Okay.
And-
Moving on, I know we've got a lot to tackle today.
Yes. So, like we also alluded to, we actually discussed it in detail last week. Kuti ukangoona munhu akutanga kuita some weird behavior, because munhu, I mean, I know kuti like if it's a rape, somebody just raped someone. But it's manguva anotanga kuita kakutaura kaya like sexually suggestive talk, you know. Either you are a 17-year-old or you are whatever. And it's munhu ari kuzama kucreata an environment yekuti azokwanisa kuita zvaarida kuita. Have you seen Erica? Oh, this annoys me so much. Have you seen guys vanokumhorosa, so then they scratch into your hands? Like, who
Do you know that
does
I
that?
think
Why?
that Nyari, thank you so much. Although we can't, I think, constitutionally put it somewhere it's that strong, but I think for the sake of this show,
Yeah.
please stop doing that.
Stop doing that.
Just, you don't have to touch people when you talk to them entirely. There's that, and then the funny caress by the shoulders.
Oh my goodness.
It is intrusive.
It is intrusive.
You don't need to do that. I can hear you without touching me. Oh, thank you.
And that's part of sexual violence. It's like, it's harassment.
It
You know,
is.
it's sexual harassment. It is, you're getting into my space. It is in a personal space, which I like to keep iri yangu, right? And if I allow you into my space, let it be me allowing you into my space. Don't come and jump into my space. And skukudai papo,
Can
you
I
know.
please put a cherry on the top? It's like the people that stand behind you, and you're trying to pay for something, and they're right behind you, like they want to wear your jacket also. Like, right? That should be illegal.
That's-
Till operator has school teaser, like, just stand there,
I know.
and your turn is gonna, clearly your turn is coming if we're in line.
I know. And I think people should respect those COVID spaces.
I think COVID should just, keep those kind of stickers on the floor, because whoop,
Precisely, because whether mu bank, even mu basi, sometimes you don't need to be so into my space. So push, but let it be decent, don't let me feel uncomfortable. So but anyway, inappropriate behavior, not inappropriate,
And I think so that people don't think that we are deflecting from the topic. I think this does also just still fall under the sexual harassment, because
Yeah.
there's a boundary to everything. So
Yeah.
once you can tickle me in the hand, now maybe you feel too comfortable to even now start sexually harassing me or
Exactly.
physically. So yeah, we did not deflect there.
No, we didn't. And remember, when we're talking of sexual, sexual offenses, usually, sometimes they are in the moment. And I need to just say to people, this is so important, that kana munhu afosekedzwa, handiti kana munhu arepiwa, do not ever put the blame on the victim, because sexual offenses, just like my abuses, those things, they are the problem of the perpetrator, they are not the problem of the victim. So musati iwewe ona mapfekero ako, unogara wakapfeka mashotsi, unogara wakapfeka chakazoti, because of that wabatwa. Hakuna munhu anobata munhu because akapfeka mashorts. Guys, please understand
I
that.
think people use that as a projection of who they really are. You can't project your fears on me to say because you are now looking like this, I did that.
Exactly. Rape is a sick thing. It's perpetrated by a person who is sick in the head, okay, who cannot understand the boundaries of other people, and they want to force themselves on that person. And remember, with rapists, like I said, a lot of, if not all, offenders, vanhu vakatoitwawo something vachiri vana vadiki. And I think I remember saying about 50% of abused children end up abusing other people themselves. Saka toda kuti tinzwisise the psychology of rape. Munhu anenge ane a low self-esteem, Erica, and it's hard to be a man these days. This I have to explain. So hard to be a man. You are being pushed because you must be a man, you must have a job, you must have a car,
Yeah,
you
save
must
money
have
for my
whatever.
mom.
It's hard, right? And a lot of men are they are buckling under that pressure. So you'll see Kuti, here he feels so badly about himself, right? And because he feels so badly about himself, he's trying to find a place where he can conquer, where he can overcome. Saka, anobva aenda kune this young person or kune this woman or kune this old woman, right? And he forces himself on that person. And they actually, what they want is the struggle. Yo, they want the struggle. Uchirwisa, uchirwisa, uchiscreama, uchimuruma, uchita say, then he forces you. That's where the relief comes from. That's where the joy comes from. Kuti, I have conquered you. So you understand, Kuti, it's got literally nothing to do with sexual desire. Because if rape had something to do with sexual desire, why would a 3-month-old baby be raped? Why would an 85-year-old woman be raped? The apostolic faith, the apostolic garments and anenge akapfeka from head to toe vanhu vatenzi, and yet anorepewa saka chichakuattracta ipapo. So it's got nothing to do with sexual attraction. It is just somebody who actually needs a doctor. They need a shrink.
I think whilst you are there, Nyari, if we could maybe just then buttress onto the point that rape also has no age limit. I found in a conversation where I was then misconstrued to the fact that because he was above 70, it didn't qualify for rape because apparently she'd been sexually active all her life. And I found that
What?
I was there. I was
Who thinks like
repelled.
that?
I was absolutely repelled. It's like, so maybe if you could buttress that point, you see,
Yes.
as my age, it's as sad as a baby being raped. It's the same thing if it's anybody of any age.
Nevedwe, every person, every woman who's walking out there has their dignity. And they have a right to be respected.
Yeah.
Whatever they, it's like a mana grandmother vakwanisa kurepiwa because they've been active all their lives.
I don't
They
know
were
if it's-
active all their lives with people they wanted to be active with,
Thank you.
not
Thank
with,
you.
with anybody. That is just sick.
I know.
aching.
Like I said, I was totally repelled, and I
Yeah.
think it's something that we have of. I don't know if it's by demographic, because I heard this nangandatozokera kumaraini kwedu svikanzi anogochema ripi ipi ya munhu ane time ari sexually active. And I thought, how dimwit does one have to be to think like
How dare they?
yeah, so
Why?
maybe coming from you, because sana Erica tikazvitaura zviri zvichinzi vanozivei vanhu paredio.
Erica, two things that I will say. It's very important. Is Kutin. I was in Mashonaland something province. I was dealing with some criminal cases, and I happened to be in the office of one of the area prosecutors. Kanti kuna mafeo akakura akawanda so office market. And he says, oh, these are all the rape cases from this province. Ndikati from this province, kanti you have like from January to March. Ndikati
Isn't from January to March?
from January to March, angakawanda so RM province. Ndikati okay, so vanava how far kanzi no Nyari, the interesting thing about it is kuti mafiles esa wakawa rape ari munomu. Vanhu, majority of them, they are polygamists.
I'm not following. Nyari. Yeah.
Vanhu who were perpetrators
Yeah.
vangavarepa vachinzi vari kuuya kuzotongwa.
A polygamist.
Vanhu vanga vane more than one wife.
And yet, so okay, so it's not in that particular camp that they raped, but it's in outside.
It's outside.
It's this
So they raped
insatiable
somebody else.
behavior.
He's got
that I
3
can't
wives,
stand.
but he's raping somebody. It means, Kuti, it's
Yeah.
got nothing to do, like I say, with
Yeah.
sexual desire. It's about to do with power, because I don't have power over them.
It's an
so he's got
insatiable quest
access
for
to-
power. I think I've
It is.
witnessed it. It's insatiable is the word. I think your word actually. It's like what?
And it's not sexual desire. Iyo tifana kuinzwisisa, because kana ndine vakadzi 3, I can distribute them during the week and throughout the week. Ko
Distribute being the keyword.
ko wakuenda undotsvaga umwe munhuwo asiri kuda chinyi. You see what I mean? The second thing I need to say is kuti, if you're going to have sexual activities with someone who is 12 years and below, even if they say yes, it is rape.
Why would anyone want a 12-year-old
Yeah.
to? Do you know? I
Yeah.
feel like corporal punishment should be in the court. Pane munhu anomborowa vanhu nemabhandi mucourt. Like,
Vana
you know what?
vanombokwaturwa.
Uichi mbomurova nebhandi. Because it's a we're not going to even conversate about it.
Yeah.
And whilst we're there, whilst we have
Yeah.
you here, Nyari, maybe we should also just touch on the nugget when it comes to sexual harassment in the workplace and it comes to consent, because in a lot of cases that we then go on to witness, it's but iye pandakampa basa racho
Yeah.
anga afunga kuti what was the then expected what is it called? Totichi, what word? I'm lacking the actual word. But are you following?
Entitlement. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm entitled to that.
So why can't I then have a sexual engagement with you? And I think that's where a lot of people cannot even go and report. I know personally of a case like that where I said,
Yeah.
friend, what you're saying, this man actually gave you this job and now he feels like you owe him these sexual favors and you can report him. So what are the brinks when it comes to workplace sexual harassment? When
Oh,
do we
boy.
say this is when it starts? When can someone report?
Oh my goodness, Erica, if Papa, you've just opened a can of worms.
Mm.
I'm actually thinking probably that's something we should have a day to
day, yeah,
dedicate
yeah,
that
please.
here so that we can really talk about it, because nobody, just for now, maybe our producer can organize that for us. Could you tell me about that? But just in brief today, there's no one, an employment contract is an employment contract.
Yeah.
It doesn't have shindori nama fringes nama,
Anonzi chima gentleman agreements after.
exactly ekuti, and a person and some guys will come and say, "Kana uri kuda basa, this is what's going to happen." Then iwewe, if you get into it nama conditions wow, well, that's another story. But munhu ari kukupa basa, you are assuming on the basis of your qualification, and kana akuzodemanda izvozvo, that is completely illegal. Then you have women. Oh my goodness, I don't always like to talk about women as if they are like victims. Then you have women who actually go kuba interview with the intention yekubatsira CV yake ne how bodacious she is. You understand what I mean? Anotoenda koka achitoluka very suggestive, very sexually suggestive. Kuti if CV kasabudirira,
But we must also look out
I am
for
going
men.
to
Nyari.
use I'm
Yeah.
going to use these so let's be very sure kuna wakadzi, even in the
I agree with
workplace,
you,
and
yeah.
it confuses people, because there are women in the workplace who want to climb the corporate ladder using things that are more than their
And social media is not helping us, because apparently that's also a CV now. If you've got a curvaceous body on your Instagram, apparently that qualifies for
that
something that you
qualifies
do
you.
in
It's
life.
it's
Yeah,
like
I'm
instant.
struggling to pair the two.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that one, Lewe, I think we should organize it for like a whole
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
Could you turn out to look into it? But back to the sexual issues, and I was talking about 12-year-olds, 12-year-old and below. Pana noti but anga achida, because these girls, they're starting to really be bodacious and to be, I always say the correct body parts arrive, and their correct body parts are arriving when they're 8. They even start my menses avo and stuff. So even the sexual desire, maturity msore nenge isati yavamo, but physically they are a woman, and some men cannot tell kuti aiwa, yes, the body adai tashiona kuti izvi zvashika izvi zvadai also, but this child is still a child. And they do not know the full consequences of the actions that they're taking, and they are flattered in their youth and in their immaturity kuti Ningirikiri actually likes me. And with kids who are teenagers, these days my businessmen nemaivakuendawo ikoko, but we know kuti vanhu vainyanya kuva access, or vanonyanya kuva access with children who are in their teens are actually teachers and headmasters. Wozonza kuti aiwa anga achidheta asikana vari 3 avaitisa nhumbu, all those horrible stories
It's
that
the
happen.
terminology for me. How do you date kids that are
I know.
I can't word it, Nyari. Okay, maybe to also stand corrected is we are having a couple of questions here that are then asking, but are we saying rape only applies to women? Maybe we wanted to stand corrected.
Okay, I think I'd sort of said it to say, look, in terms of legal definition, atiti rape. If it's a guy, Tongoti, it's a guy who was drugged or who was caused to be intoxicated in a way, and then he was compromised, and then he was forced to sleep with the lady. We call it, those are sexual offenses, but not aggravated sexual assault.
yes,
Yeah. So
yes.
we don't call it rape, because rape by definition, you have to have, it's a man on a woman without a consent, and there's penetration. So
Okay,
a
I
woman
guess,
cannot
yeah.
penetrate a man, but they can use means and ways to make sure that this man is compromising. That I'm sure you remember, kuti Shakatombo report,
Yeah.
there were some women
Trending.
who were giving men lifts, and then they'll take them somewhere out there, then they'll do what they do with them, and then they'll collect, yeah, and they would use it for spiritual or ritualistic. Saka, men, we will never say that men are not uh, open to those sexual offenses, but we don't call it rape
Yeah.
at law, and it is just so people understand that. Yeah.
Listen, in case you're just joining us, caught us in the middle of the conversation, ought to make sure you're well caught up. You can catch up with the whole conversation on Facebook. We are live, that's at @StarFM_ZW, and I am speaking to Advocate Nyari, and we are touching on domestic abuse, but more on the sexual context of things. You are welcome to text us with your questions on the WhatsApp platform. That's on 0772162651. Now, Advocate, we've got a lot of bullets to get through, and we've tried our best, and hence my interjections.
Yes, yes, yes.
I must interject so that
We move on.
we move on.
Yeah.
On to the next one.
Okay, so let's talk about marital rape. Yo.
Yeah.
That one is a big one. So, when two people get married, there is an automatic right that comes with your being married to receive conjugal rights from your spouse. Okay? So conjugal rights, if two people get married and then they don't sleep together, kana takuenda ukoti kuri kunzi vari kurambana, we don't even call it a divorce, we call it a nullification, because that marriage was never consummated. The consummation comes kana murume nemukadzi voenda pabonde, anditika. So those rights are automatic. Aripo anotouya nemutemo kuti kana maroorana, the wife must be willing to sleep with the man, and the man must be willing to sleep with the woman. Saka, where do you draw the line now? Kuti mukadzi akuti inini ndarepewa ndiri mumba, and that's a big question yekuti, can a woman be raped nemurume wake? And the answer is yes, she can be raped, because kana takutaura rape, hatichanyanyi kuongorora kuti what are the circumstances around it. We still go back to our definition. What is rape? It's having sexual intercourse with a woman, whether it's your wife or not, without her consent. Apa hatisi kuti madzimai chisunga play, because a lot of women vari kusunga play, and they use, sex, if I can say that, as a way of controlling a man. And kuti tanga wambotenga Benz, ndisati ndakupa zvinhu. And that is just that's actually not proper.
But does it make it right if he then forces himself because
It then
Angachiramba?
doesn't.
Is that not a conflicting circumstance?
No. So we're looking at it, we need to balance it out. Number one, tiri kukohomedza madzimai kuti do not use sex as a weapon, right, to try and control someone. But even though a person does that, there are means and ways. Vananda counseling, vanozama kuwana maways kutaura about it, and kuti titi aiwa guys, kana takaroorana ndiri kudawo maconjugal rights angu. But that does not give the man any right to force himself on his wife. If I can just be very practical, I'm trying to think of means and ways, or different maybe examples of when a woman says no, and she has a right to say no, and she must be respected, right? And that also happens both ways. I don't talk about vakadzi, but because there are women who are playing. Iwewe wakachasa nemunhu muri bedroom, and this person private parts, uri kuona kuti there's evidence of an STI, and we just want to be practical about it. And maybe he was away for 2 weeks, or anga achimbofamba famba and you guys hapana zvamamaita, and or the wife has been up to something, right? And you can see, Kuti, this person, if we actually sleep together, I'm going to get this disease. You have every right to say, aiwa shamwari, chimboenda kaundodini, umbondorapwa.
Yeah.
And then kana wa okay, you can then come. So in those circumstances, women are still being raped. Men are still being, sexually offended. Munhu achizviforsa on a person kusaka ndimukadzi wako kana kuti iwo ndakakubvisira pfuma, or whatever the case may be. Those bedroom issues, those are sexual offenses. Being forced to watch pornography, when you are like, inini, I can't, yeah. Inini, and there's pornography issue, and I don't want to watch other people.
Can you also report that being that happens? Let's say your partner forces you to watch pornography. Are you lighted to go to the police station and report that? Because maybe people don't know that sometimes these things that are affecting them can actually be dealt with.
I know.
Mhm.
The issue
Honey, it
is,
was a-
there's always a thin line. You know what I mean? You can do something about it, right? You can say, no, I do not want to do this, right? But once you see a relationship go in that way, what our position here where we're saying you need to protect yourself, right? If a person is forcing you to do that, and I'm not just talking about forcing to watch pornography, there are women who are forcing their husbands to have orgies. I know good to spice things up, Shamari.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
I
still
didn't
want-
come ready for this.
I-
This
it's
much weight
hectic,
you've
isn't
been
it?
putting on me for the
I
past
know.
45 minutes is a lot.
We really want to get into the story where we're talking about what sexual offenses are happening in the marriage, so that people can put them in the correct pigeonhole. And you're being forced to do things that you did not sign up for in marriage. It is just absolutely not fair. You get it? And you have, we hear of the strangest things that are
I've
happening.
been hearing about these
Like-
things in the streets, Nyari. I just thought maybe I'm in the wrong corner of things.
No,
But
sweetheart.
if these things are actually making their way to court, I don't know what kind of intervention we need if it's not divine.
Yeah.
I did see one of
It's-
the people saying on the WhatsApp platform something on how, what is the final solution? You being someone who treats in the courts, would you say there is a final solution to any of these things that we have touched on? I'm also saying this because of time, and to know that it's not that Advocate Nyari didn't finish speaking, but it's that maybe there's stories we bring to light, but
Yeah.
conclusively,
Is there actually a
is,
solution?
is there something we can proffer to people to say this is, yeah.
I think number one, talk about it with your partner. If you are not comfortable with something, usaita zvinhu zvausiri comfortable nazvo. Anditika number one. Akaramba achikufosekedza, go and get assistance, from your pastor, from your, counselors, variko, who can actually talk to this person. Because sometimes people do not have they have not set out the parameters of what is unacceptable behavior in a relationship. Chinototanga vanhu vari boyfriend and girlfriend, and remember, when talking of the Domestic Violence Act, we're not just talking about husband and wife. We're talking about boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah.
There's some people who are living in together, and zvinjakatotanga kare izvozvizvi,
And I think we should be round here, Nyari. This
man.
just needs like
We
a
need
whole
to carry
sit
it
down.
over
We
to
need-
next week.
It needs okay. So maybe we carry over next
I
week.
think
Next week,
so.
I mean, we ought to hear there. But
Yeah.
for today, I must say thank you for the edifying nuggets that you've been giving us. I think you really did try to touch on all the
Yes.
different kinds of sexual abuse, from children to housemates to
Yes,
you even
to-
touched on orgies.
But
It's a lot. It's a lot
Yeah.
that you people of the law do carry. But
Sure.
thank you so much. We're speaking here to Advocate Nyaradzo Nyari Maposa. It is on Facebook, so you can catch up with the whole session, touching on domestic abuse, sexual abuse being the context for today. Thank you so much.
oh, pleasure.
It is the Morning Galaxy right here on Star FM. Yeah, gonna catch up with you the third and final hour right now. It's 11 o'clock. Then it's time for the news.
This is Zim Papers Radio.